Welcome to our very first episode of the People of Rochester podcast. Here we're sharing the stories of the people who work hard every day to help create an environment of hospitality, hope, healing, creativity, and excitement that this city thrives on.
Yes.
Yay.
You successfully did your first ever intro.
I'm so excited.
Nice work.
Yes,
Very
thank you.
nice.
Thank you.
And what went into that entire decision making of that music? You had
Weeks.
someone. Was it really weeks?
I don't know. Actually, yeah, I do a lot of planning. I do. Now, I mean, I wouldn't say that actually took weeks of like hour-long thought processes, but yeah, like here and there, I'll think about it and then I'll stop thinking about it and think about it again. But no, we all kind of helped. Our creativity came together.
And you had someone make the final decision on what music it was.
I
And it
did
wasn't me because
I
I just go with anything.
I know, and I kind of knew you were going to it too. I thought to myself, I'll ask Bucky, and then I thought Bucky's going to say it's up to you, and then you did, and I knew it. No, our very, very first guest helped me make the decision.
Well, if I had known that I was making the decision, I would have said, "Oh, just whatever you think."
Yeah,
That's fine.
No, it's fantastic. We have our very first guest here today. His name is Austin Ferguson.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
I'm so excited that you're here.
That's very exciting.
And you are one of our last features that I posted.
Yeah, it was a wonderful little write-up. I appreciated that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Well, it's all your words. That was my goal. I was so excited. But it only shared just like a little bit of a little snippet of what.
But when you get me talking, sometimes you just kind of have to tell me to shut up.
No, I didn't want to. And I thought, oh my gosh, there's so many words. I can't post it all these words. So that's why, I'm excited to do this. And it was kind of, and then you were my very first feature, Bucky.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Is that cool?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and then it was your kind of little idea. I shouldn't say little idea, but it was to me. I thought a podcast. What? I can't do a podcast.
Yeah, cool.
But then I think it was really after yours, Austin. I thought there's so many stories here. I have to do one. So.
And I had no idea until reading the article and you sharing about it. I had no idea. So I'm excited to learn even more because, like you had said, is the stories of the people of Rochester really is awesome, and we're going to learn more. So
absolutely.
Let's get right into it.
I'm excited.
Cool.
Austin.
Yes, sir.
Where are you from originally?
I am from Longview, Texas, about 16 hours in a car from Rochester.
That is great. And in Longview, Texas, when you were saying that, I was thinking you were going to say California, but Longview, Texas, if you had to explain Longview, Texas, how would you describe it? What would it be like?
Oh, lots of pine trees. It's in the middle of what's called the Piney Woods. Just kind of a small, not necessarily rural, but kind of isolated community. There's two towns, Longview and Tyler, right next to one another. And then there's nothing until you get to Dallas farther west or Shreveport, Louisiana farther east. It's about the same size as Rochester population-wise, give or take. So kind of imagine Rochester just without the big hospital, if you can, and people with really, really stereotypically Texan-sounding accents, and that's basically what you got.
I love that.
Oh yeah, I'm kind of the anomaly because I don't talk more like this. Where that's about what I'm from.
I wouldn't really. Would you guess he's from?
No, I wouldn't have guessed.
No, I don't think so. I also wouldn't have guessed Texas to be like with a bunch of pine trees. I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's.
I know. I thought the same thing.
I was like, is it like Minnesota? No.
Little in places, yeah. It's in northeastern Texas. Like if you know, it's almost where the where Texarkana is. If you know where that is. It's lots of lakes, lots of pine trees.
Sounds wonderful.
It's pretty great, actually. Yeah, the air's cleaner there.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Great.
So, what brought you to Rochester?
Mayo offered me my job, and I just couldn't say no to it. I was in Chicago beforehand, so it wasn't too far of a move from there. But they offered me a job, and I moved out here less than 2 weeks later. It was kind of a whirlwind.
Wow.
And did you go to school for what you're doing now?
I was a music major in undergrad. Yeah, I went to the University of Texas at Austin, got a music degree and a minor in government, and then went to law school in Chicago, which don't do if you're thinking you want to do it, is my advice. So I was in Chicago, and then this job opened up. I had a colleague of mine sent me the posting, and I thought, oh, I'm 20. How old was I? I was 22. I said, I'm 22. I'm still in school. They're not going to hire me, but figured it would be an interview experience, if nothing else. So I came out, they flew me out for an interview, audition, and yeah, I've been here ever since.
Wow. And for those that don't know.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
What do you do?
What do you do?
What do you do every day?
Oh, yeah, so I am the fourth Carillonneur of the Mayo Clinic. So I play the bells in the Plummer Building downtown.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
I feel like we're speaking to like a historical figure right now. You
Well,
know?
since we've talked about it, like whenever the bells play now, I'm like, I know the dude up there playing the bells. That is so cool.
That's me.
I love that.
That is cool.
That's really the whole reason for this podcast.
There's so many questions I have. It's like,
Where do you begin?
oh, where do you begin?
Okay, so take us back to when you learned. Maybe you're gonna have to go way back. But how did you learn to play these bells?
Yeah, so like I said, I was a music major in undergrad, and I've played the piano since I was in second grade. It's been forever. So I'll try to condense the story as much as I can. When I was in high school, my freshman year of high school, Baylor University did what's called a pipe organ encounter, which is sponsored by the American Guild of Organists. And basically, if you're, I think, between like 8 and 18, whatever the age range is, you will go to these locations. It was at Baylor University in Texas, but they're all over the country, at churches, colleges, wherever. And they will basically teach you to play the organ during a very intense week in the summer. And so I did that for the first year just because I thought, well, it'll be good. You know, I'll have a church job. It'll be good just to learn to play another instrument. So did that. And while we were there, the Carillonneur at Baylor University, who's a very close friend of mine, her name is Lynnette Gary, will always take the organ students up to play the Carillon in Baylor's administration building.
Because is an organ and Carillon, are they similar instruments?
Yes. Well, it's funny, actually. Lynnette cannot play the piano or the organ to save her life. She's a clarinet. She's got a master's degree in music education, but she's a clarinetist.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
But learned to play the Carillon when she was like 30 years ago now, and just stuck with it. So she showed that off to us, and I've always loved bells. I think that I just love the sound of them. Yeah. And so I was kind of hooked. It was just a really cool thing. So I went 3 out of 4 summers of high school. I went back to this organ camp at Baylor. It was the greatest week of the summer. And every year they would take us up to the Carillon. It was just kind of a fun, like 2 hours in the afternoon one day kind of thing. So I had experience with that. And when I went to college at UT Austin, the man that had been playing the Carillon for like 50 years at that point, his name was Tom Anderson, was 88 years old and couldn't climb the stairs anymore. They're very steep, very difficult to get to. And so they had a student group set up to kind of help him with the playing of that, to just make the load easier for him to kind of go. And so I basically went up and said, hey, I've played one of these before. Like, I know how to do it. And I said, okay, you got the job. So
wow.
I did that. I took over the student group after my first year there, and did that for 3 years and got us, I don't want to brag, but kind of involved in campus life.
So were you just a natural then when you played it in high school? When you played during those weeks? For
whatever reason, I took to it really like a duck to water. It is for whatever reason, I don't know why. And when I got to college, actually, I called Lynnette and I said, hey, you probably don't remember me that well because you only met me like 3 times, but would you be interested in teaching me so I can be better at what I'm doing? And she said, oh yeah, sure. So all through college, I would drive up maybe once or twice a month to have lessons with Lynnette. It was about an hour from Austin. I'd go up on a Saturday. We'd work for maybe 2 or 3 hours. Then her husband, and I would go get Mexican food, and then
I love that.
Go back and work some more. So I did that all through college. Got us kind of pretty involved in campus life. Joined the Guild of Carillonneurs North America, which I'm still a member of, and then played in law school at Rockefeller Chapel at the University of Chicago. Until this job opened up. So I've done it for almost 10 years. It'll be 10 years in the fall. 10 years next fall, regular, not just occasionally. But
wow.
It's a lot of fun. I saw on Facebook 2 years ago, you know how the memories pop up every day? It was I found the entry on like June 7th or whenever it was. When I went to play the Baylor Carillon for the first time. And I sent a picture to Lynnette. I said, hey, look what I found today. And she said it made her cry. So.
Oh, that's so special. Yeah. I bet that relationship between you two is really special.
I try and see her every time I go back. She's done a lot for me, and I really appreciate it. She's kind of like my second grandmother, or third grandmother. Both my grandmothers are still alive.
Yeah.
Whoops. Sorry, guys. But no, she's just the sweetest person you could ever possibly want to meet. She's great.
And that's really cool too, that you felt comfortable enough to reach out to her, after high school and,
Well, it was one of those that, it's such a specialized instrument. There aren't a lot of us around.
Yeah.
And there's a Carillonneur in San Antonio. His name is George Gregory, and he's kind of a living legend in the Carillon world. But I hadn't met him at that point in time. So even though San Antonio is a little closer than Waco is, I just didn't know him until later that fall. So I took a couple of lessons with him, but he's very, very low key in that he's just a very sweet, very quiet little old man. And he doesn't give lessons. He offers suggestions. And that's how he says it. If I may, you might try doing this instead of this and see how you like it. But it's your decision. But yeah, I did a little bit with him too. He's great as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. And Lynnette is just a little bit more of a interactive.
It's funny.
Teacher.
She's very, very quiet and demure, just kind of a very just calm, gentle, sweet soul. And she kind of operates like my father does if she's disappointed or angry about something, she doesn't get mad. She gets kind of cold and tells you she's disappointed in you. And that's 10 times worse.
Absolutely.
But it's really funny, actually. I taught Carillon lessons to other students in Austin. And our first road trip up to Waco, like the next year, I think we'd allotted like 3 hours or something. Lynnette, I told her I'd buy her lunch. And she said, okay, consider that's my payment is you can take me to lunch. I said, okay. And for that 3 hours, she and I jibber jabber just like two old chickens when we get next to one another. And I think for about 2 hours of those, we just sent jibber jabbering back and forth and not actually getting any work done. And so the students were like, yeah, we want to go back, but you're not allowed to come next time because you won't shut up. And so
we got nothing productive.
That's why our lessons were so long, is because we could just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
Yeah.
Because I'm a chatterbox as it is. But when you get both of us together, it's a lot of fun, but very wordy.
And so you said the group of Carillon, I mean, there's really not very many of you.
Oh, yeah.
It's country, really.
It's a very small group. We all, if we've not met, and most of us have met one another at one point or one time, we all know basically we know who everybody is. It's a very small, very tight-knit group. We get together once a year. We have a conference in June that changes location every year. We're going to be in, knock on wood, going to be in Longwood Gardens, Philadelphia, or just outside Philadelphia this year. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we'll be here at Mayo, knock on wood again, in 2028. So.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it's
very cool.
It's a lot of fun. It's a very intensive week, lots of performances, lots of catching up, because you see these people maybe once or twice a year at most.
Sure.
And it's one of those that I always take a week of vacation after this, because I get so tired and so sick of listening to bells for a while. I just go home and veg out in time, ready to come back.
Yeah. So take us through I don't know, Bucky, do you want to know his day-to-day?
Yeah, and I'm just curious, like, why is it a job in Rochester, Minnesota, of all places?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the Carillon actually was donated by the Mayo brothers. It's one of their legacies. Everybody knows that the Plummer Building was originally designed without the bell tower. There are even postcards from when it was being constructed without the tower on them.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I can pull up a picture later on if you want to see it. So where the top of the bell tower is, it was just a flat roof. And the story, it's not true, but there's a story that floats around that people like to tell that I've heard it either Dr. Plummer or either of the Mayo brothers, any kind of way, was overseas in Belgium at a medical conference and heard a Carillon playing and liked it so much he bought one on the spot, and then called back to Rochester and said, build a bell tower, I bought a Carillon.
No way.
Yeah, it's not true. They were familiar with it. Both Mayo brothers served in, I think it was the Army Medical Corps during World War I. And had spent time in the Low Countries of Europe, so they were familiar with these instruments. But we have documentation going back to, I think it was 1925, about them wanting to build a Carillon as a war memorial. And Dr. Balfour, an early Mayo physician, was on that committee who went to the University of Toronto, whose instrument is the slightly older, slightly smaller twin of ours. They're almost completely identical, and knew about the plans for that, basically. So they went back and forth for, of course, this is Mayo Clinic, so they had a committee, and there were years and years and years talking about it. And
there's really no decision made by one person.
Exactly. So, of course, they formed a committee to talk about it, and they went back and forth for a while, and they proposed different spots. They thought maybe the hill behind St. Mary's, where the park is. A couple of local churches said that they could put it in a tower there, whatever. And eventually it was decided the Mayo brothers thought, well, St. Mary's is kind of isolated. They didn't want it in a church's tower because they felt, in 50 years when they're dead and gone, the church is going to feel like it belongs to them and not the people, the community. So the Plummer Building just happened, this was 1927, just happened to be going up at that time. And they basically went to the city and said, hey, if you'll let us put a tower on top of our new building, if you'll let us amend the building plans, we will pay for the Carillon, and the city won't have to donate any money towards it. So the city said, congratulations on your new bell tower, Mayo Clinic. And so the contract went out. They wanted to duplicate the University of Toronto instrument. The contract went out and did that. And they've always had a paid Carillonneur on staff, actually. Jamie Drummond was the first one. And I think it was just before the dedication in like maybe early August of 1928. He got a handwritten note from Will Mayo that said, "Dear Jimmy, you can consider yourself appointed or stuck as Carillonneur," because he was an organist and knew how to play with his feet, basically. And so, yeah, I think his position was it was a couple $100 back then. It was equivalent to maybe $7,000 or $8,000 today. And the job became full time when my predecessor took over. And so it was only played 3 days a week for years and years and years. And then when Jeff came along, they decided they wanted to play it every day. So they upped the position, upped the salary, and upped the concerts, kind of as a result. So we're one of, I think, I don't know for sure, but I think 6 or 7 places in North America that actually has a full-time bell ringer on staff. It's a super niche gig, which I'm very grateful to have. So yeah, it's kind of one of those. It just the Mayo brothers wanted it basically, and it's evolved from there, which I think is pretty great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's something special.
So what does a regular day look like?
I'm usually in the office 10 to 6, except on Mondays. That's my late concert day. I'll be there noon to 8 or so. I come in. I will generally, the first thing I do, or what I like to do, is I will practice. I have, like I said, there are 8 concerts a week. It's 2 a day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and once a day, Tuesday, Thursday. And I won't repeat the same pieces twice within a month. So I try to keep things kind of varied.
That's
with what
a lot.
I play. Well, people get bored if you play the same thing
and
over and over
you might
again.
get bored, maybe.
Oh, I get bored really easily with pieces.
I mean, yeah.
So yeah, the first thing I like to do is I program things at least a month, sometimes 2 months in advance. And you can find those all online. I post them all. So
where at?
The Mayo Clinic Humanities Connect page.
All right.
If you want to go look at the Carillon's Twitter, it's it's at Mayo Clinic Bells. I have it pinned at the top of that profile, but
All right.
yeah, I will come through and I'll run through the program for the day once just to get it done. That's kind of my warm up. And then after that, I will. It kind of depends. No 2 days are the same. Sometimes I'll have some meetings, or I'll do a little Twitter spree. Sometimes I spend a lot of time arranging and writing music for the Carillon, just because the repertoire is constantly expanding. I get not a ton, but some requests. So if somebody says, "Hey, I want to hear XYZ," I'll say, "Oh, I can probably play that, I think." So I'll write out an arrangement for that. Then for usually about 2, maybe sometimes 3, depending on time, hours a day, I'll practice new music just to kind of learn new stuff to keep it constantly going. I'll play through programs for weeks in advance. Take a lunch break, come back, and then right before I perform, I'll run through the program for the day a second time just to make sure I know what I'm doing, even though that doesn't always mean I know what I'm doing. I'll run through it right before I'm supposed to play, then just kind of take a break for 10, 15 minutes and then go play, and then I'll leave after that.
Wow.
A lot of work.
Lots of
It
practice.
is.
It's a full-time job.
Oh yeah, it's great. It really is. It's enjoyable. It's fun, but it does get tiring.
So I have a question.
Lots of brain fatigue.
So you said writing arrangements.
Uh-huh.
Is that because people are requesting songs or requesting a piece that you don't have the arrangement for your instrument?
Yeah.
Is that basically what that is?
Basically, sometimes it's because I want to learn it, and I publish a lot of arrangements. I've got a couple coming out this year.
Wow.
But yeah, it usually
Very
is.
cool.
Oh, yeah.
That's really cool.
I don't want to like toot my own horn too much, but
that is why you're here, Austin.
Oh yeah. Well, no,
we want to toot.
No, this sounds cocky. I am a pretty good arranger. Actually, that's where my skills lie. Not so much as I'm a decent performer, but I'm a very good arranger. It's just kind of
absolutely. It's a different skill. I think it's like the theory behind it.
Exactly. I majored music theory too, so that's kind of my thing.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, no. A lot of times people, I get a lot of hymn requests actually, which I kind of expected coming into this. It fits. But yeah, I had somebody ask me a couple of months ago if I would do Thrift Shop by Macklemore, and I said, I would love to, but that won't work. So I ended up doing Dancing Queen by ABBA instead, which people go crazy for.
Do they really? Gosh, where have I been during that one? I want to. I got to pay more attention.
I actually played that maybe 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We gotta look at these songs online.
For real. We have to request one. Yeah. We're gonna put our heads together.
I have a submission form on Google for people to send requests in.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun.
That is fun.
Just follow up with me though, because Google doesn't always give me notifications. So at one point I was sitting on like 6 different song requests for months before.
Oh no.
Then I had to email them. I'm so sorry. I just thought people were interacting with this.
That's funny.
Then it goes to like a spreadsheet or
I keep like I said, I program things about a month in advance, and I keep a list both on my computer and in just a hard copy in a binder of programs going all the way back to February of last year when I started keeping track after the renovation work was done.
What a fun way to keep yourself interested and keep yourself motivated. I feel like this job is easy to you can stay isolated,
right.
Do these are my pieces, but you seem to have kind of created it yourself on what your day-to-day looks like.
Yeah. I in terms of programming especially, I really look to my friend Andrea McCready, who has the coolest job title. She is the Dominion Carillonneur of Canada, which means she plays the Carillon in the...
Is that really her job title?
Yes. Just Dominion Carillonneur. But
wow.
She plays the Carillon in the Parliament Building in Ottawa, the Peace Tower, which was actually cast by the same founder that did these bells the year before. And she is known in the Carillon world. She's an excellent programmer. And I kind of have looked to her over the past 8 or 9 years to kind of get the feel of how she does that. She's more cutesy than I am. She's way better at it than I can be. But I try, and with that, I also try and pay attention to famous people's birthdays. Like I always play a concert for Julie Andrews' birthday in October, Queen Elizabeth in April. Actually, May has a lot of royal births. So this year I'm like doing one like every other day almost. Various countries' national days, and things like that. I did last Monday, I think it was the 9th anniversary of the Space Shuttle Discovery's final landing. So I did a star-themed program for that. That was
so cool.
That was cutesy. That was a fun one. So yeah, it's one of those that I can do it on my own just to kind of do it up. But I do try and be conscious of what's going on. But I do have to say I try and remain strictly apolitical at all times because, Lord, I don't want to get fired.
Yeah.
So what is you've just explained it to me. What does the instrument itself look like? How do you play it? I picture this big stick, like playing a bell. That's what everybody... I am hitting all the bells.
I'm not going to lie. In college, when people would ask me, they'd say, oh my God, do you swing from ropes like Quasimodo? And I would say, yes, that's exactly what it's like.
Okay, that sounds cool.
And they're like, how do you get away with that? Like, isn't that a job hazard? And I'd say, oh, it's fine. There's like a net up there to catch anybody that falls.
I love that you went with it.
Yeah, I have a picture. This is in San Antonio. It's not in Rochester. Okay. So it's basically, I say it's a giant piano for all intents and purposes, just with bells instead of strings. So instead of piano keyboard, like you've got black keys and white keys that you play with your fingers. On a Carillon, the layout is the same. It's much bigger, obviously, but the layout is the same. But instead of keys for your fingers, you have what are basically long broom handles that you play with your fists instead of your fingers. You just make a loosely closed fist and you push down on one. And those levers are actually those levers are directly connected to the bells. It's all mechanical. There's no electric or pneumatic assist or anything like that.
So it's lever, like... So you have your keyboard.
Uh-huh.
Now the organ kind of piece comes into it where you're also playing with your feet.
Yes. There are foot pedals that are also connected to the baton. So you should come up in the tower sometime. I'll show you around. But when you push down on one of the pedals, the key will move too. The bells are very, very heavy. The largest bell in Rochester weighs just under 8,000 pounds. So you will push that with your feet typically because it's easier to kind of get some power behind
leverage,
that. Yeah. But yeah, no, if you can read music, you can learn to play the Carillon. But if you have keyboard experience, it makes it a lot easier, just because it's kind of natural.
Sure. But your entire body's into it. I mean, it's not just like your little fingers.
Oh no, it's quite a workout. Actually, it's very physical. We're lucky here that, well, number one, Rochester doesn't get very hot to start with, but there's an air conditioning unit up in the tower. There are some places. I'm going to call you out. University of Florida, beautiful, beautiful Carillon. I played there in 2017. It was supposed to be there last week, or earlier this week. I was supposed to play on, I think, Sunday. That they don't have an air conditioner in that tower, and it's in Florida.
Wow.
And they perform during the summer months too. And I'm just thinking, I'm glad I don't have that job, because that would be sweltering.
So the bells, how big are they? Are they above you? Are you looking at them?
Yes.
Like if you're up there and you're sitting there and you're ready to play.
Rochester actually has a very interesting setup, and that is because the Carillon was kind of a last minute afterthought in this building. So in Rochester, you take an elevator up to the 15th floor, and then you take 5.5 flights of stairs through my office, through the elevator, or by the elevator equipment room, through the library storage, all the way up to the top. And in the belfry, the playing cabin sits on the floor. It's a little, maybe 10 by 8 box, basically, with the keyboard in it and the air conditioning unit and a chair. And it's tight.
Yeah.
And so the playing cabin sits on the belfry floor. Excuse me, I drank too much tea. I'm so sorry.
You're good.
So it sits on the floor, and then directly behind it, also sitting on the floor, are the supports for the bell frame. And that looks up. It's probably, I don't know, maybe 35 feet tall. And the bells are up one level. We actually did that last year. They used to sit on the belfry, or the lowest 4 actually used to be at the level of the belfry floor too, but we raised those up 5 feet or 6 feet, excuse me. So the bells themselves are all up a level. They're supported on one steel frame, one giant thing. It's kind of self-contained. And then that sits, so I'm going to do a visual here. The playing cabin is right in front of you, and then the belfry sits behind that, or the bell frame, excuse me, sits behind that. And then the wires come up from the keyboard and connect to the bells through the roof of the playing cabin.
Wow.
It's simple kind of in theory, but ridiculously complicated when you look at it, because there's all sorts of pulleys and levers and wires and springs and ropes and all this kind of stuff. It's really a very complicated machine.
Is it really loud?
Yeah.
Like when you're up there?
I mean, it's not I'm deaf as a stump to start with, but it's not going to deafen you, but it's pretty loud.
I mean, it's loud if you're just 3 blocks. So that's why I'm like, I can't imagine. Just you're up there.
Some players actually, I do know, play with earplugs, or nose canceling headphones or something like that. I don't, because I can't really hear anyway, so whatever.
Sure.
But the booth, the playing cabin itself is enclosed. You can open a door or a window. I just play with the window open because it's loud enough for me. But yeah, there are other places which I think have a little bit more sensible design, where the playing cabin is actually not in the belfry with the bells, but is in its own self-contained room below that.
Yeah.
And it's not quite like in Austin, for example. That's how it is.
Oh, okay. So that was my next question: was are all of these built the same way? Are they similar?
Theoretically, yes, in that it is a mechanical keyboard hooked up to wires, hooked up to bells.
Yeah.
But each instrument is different in terms of how they're connected, layout, and things like that.
Sure.
Yeah, it's the problem with playing the Carillon is that if you play a guest recital anywhere, two instruments can be built by the same maker about the same time and installed in similar setups, can feel totally different. It's kind of a guessing game sometimes when you go places.
Yeah.
Which is challenging, but kind of half the fun is, so you always want to go early and kind of test one out before you go play somewhere.
Yeah.
I would feel like it'd be an odd feeling when you get done with a piece and you're like, gosh, that was a good piece. And then you're like the only person up there in the room, and you'd be like, all right, so who just listened to that? Like all of Rochester? I wonder if anybody heard that. I wonder if anybody thought it was as good as I thought it was.
Yeah.
That is very real, actually.
Yeah, right.
I get horrible stage fright, always have. So I don't mind performing. I love it. But I really enjoy the Carillon because no one can see me. I don't, if 50,000 people are listening, I don't care. It doesn't bother me at all. But as long as I'm not visible, it really doesn't get to me. But it's funny you say that, actually, about audience recognition. it's polite during a Carillon recital in Carillon circles, at least, to clap after every piece, even though they can't hear you. It's just kind of the gesture. But there are a couple of places. I think that's in Gloucester, Massachusetts, where the Carillon has a summer recital series every year, and people will sit in their cars and honk their horns after a piece is done.
Awesome.
So the person in the tower can actually hear it. You just hear honk, 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 honk.
If you hear me honking, that's definitely me.
Oh, it's hilarious. I
want
want to go there one day just so I can experience.
No, I'm doing it on First Avenue. When it gets done, just honk, just going right on the horn.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's the funniest thing. It's a tradition that started like 50 years ago, and people just thought it was hilarious, and it's effective. So why not keep it up?
That is great.
Oh, it's
You're like, someone did hear it.
Well, I will say it is kind of nice though. I try to be big on Twitter. The Carillon didn't have a Twitter account before I started. And I had one in Austin too, and people that know about it will often interact and say, "Oh, I loved that," or "That sucked. Why'd you play that?"
They don't say that.
Once or twice. Funny story. There was one piece I played when I was in Austin. It's called "Summer Fanfares" by a composer named Roy Hamlin Johnson, who actually just died a couple of weeks ago. A super famous, very important piece in the Carillon literature theoretically. I'm not going to lie. It's cool, but it doesn't sound good. It's not melodic. It's really atonal. It's kind of funky. But it's important historically because it helped develop what is now the modern Carillon literature in North America. And I played that in Austin one time where there was very little recognition or kind of acknowledgement from the student body. And apparently I offended somebody so badly with that. They waited for me outside the tower where they knew I would come out. And they said, "What the hell was that? Don't ever play that again." So I had to explain why it was important, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, my gosh.
So naturally, I pulled it out a lot more frequently after that, just to kind of be snarky about it. But yeah, Twitter is an excellent tool. I love getting responses on that, and it just makes you feel good when people kind of compliment you.
Yeah. Is it you only playing, or is there other individuals playing as well?
99% of the time it's me. My predecessor, Jeff, lives in Rochester. He's like less than a mile from my house. And I try and bully him into coming back every now and then because he was here for 12 years. And his usual response is, "Well, I'm retired. Why would I do that?" So I try and get him back when I can. We have guest recitals that come in. I bring in 3 guest recitalists every summer.
Oh, okay.
And there's a close friend of mine who lives in Albert Lee who actually learned to play Carillon at the University of Florida. He's the organist at a church down there. And he's one of our guest recitalists for the summer, but I have him come up every now and then just if he wants to play. So my invitation to any Carillonneur is if you're in the area, call me, email me, stop by and play. I want to have you. Well, let's host you, but nobody comes out to Rochester really, so I don't get taken up on that offer too often.
They're missing out.
Yes.
Oh, I know. Well, there are 3 Carillons in Minnesota, the 2 in the cities and 1 here. So it's kind of one of those that if you come here for one of them, you can just make the circuit because we're all so close.
Yeah. Have you played the 2 up in the city?
Yes, I've played. There's one in Minneapolis at Central Lutheran downtown. I've only played there once. That's the newest one. It was installed in 2007, I think. And then actually Minnesota's oldest Carillon is at House of Hope on Summit Avenue in St. Paul.
Interesting.
Yep, just down the street from the governor's mansion.
Church.
Yep. Oh, it's beautiful.
Do they get played often?
Yes, that gets played every Sunday. Dave Johnson is the name of the Carillonneur. He's a great guy, very good friend of mine. And if I'm preparing for a guest recital somewhere, I'll go up and play a couple of times in the preceding weeks just to get kind of a feel on a different instrument. He's very gracious in hosting.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So much history, so exciting, and it's still going strong, which is fun to see in our community.
Oh yeah, it's such a niche thing, but it's this is the only hospital-owned Carillon in North America, so it's just a treasure that we have here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so unique.
What do you think about Rochester?
I like Rochester. Like I said, it's population-wise just a tiny bit bigger than Longview, so it kind of felt natural settling in here. I hated living in Chicago. Didn't like it at all.
Too busy?
Not even, because I moved to Chicago from Austin, Texas, which is the greatest place in the whole world. People just weren't very friendly. In Austin, it's a very friendly city. Chicago, I found just kind of cold and unyielding. And people in Rochester are nice too, at least in Minnesota nice. Yeah, it's pretty great. I'm not gonna lie that I used to kind of laugh at people when they would talk to me with their Minnesota accents when I first got here, just because they sound exactly like what you think they would sound like to foreign ears. But
do we?
A little bit. Oh yeah,
we do. We do.
It's all for cute. But no, it's great. I'm very, very, very lucky in that just as a community, Rochester has been very supportive. And working at Mayo, it's a great kind of safety net to get dropped into because I moved here not knowing a single person. But it's been pretty great. Mayo's a great place to work. And people love what I do. So it's kind of nice to feel appreciated and cherished sometimes.
Well, I think the history of Rochester it's still a newer history. Mm-hmm. And so I think people really do attach to that, and they do really connect with somebody like you who's coming in, and you're kind of the newbie, you haven't been here for so long, right. But you're coming in and you're filling in the shoes of just great history and historical figures that have come before you.
It's very humbling. I will definitely say that it's surreal sometimes. I've been here 3 years as of last month, and sometimes it's just kind of I'll be walking around the Plummer Building or something, and it'll kind of hit me that, holy cow, that's like my job. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Is there any places, whether it be just recreational, business, people that you just really appreciate when regarding Rochester?
That's a good question. Nobody's ever asked me that.
That is a good question.
Yeah,
it's the people of Rochester. We got to dig in.
It is.
Really, no. I just think the city as a whole, it's been very welcoming, just overall, and I'm very grateful for that. It made what was kind of a stressful and difficult transition very easy. And like I said, people are very appreciative for once they find out who I am and what I do, they kind of go, oh my God, that's great. And it's just I like being able to help in my little small way, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity for that.
It's not very small.
What do you mean?
I don't see that. You're helping in a small way. I mean, to me, like the bell. I mean, it's I don't know. I think it's such a big part of the community. Like I only moved here. Gosh, I guess it's going on 9 years now. But I heard the bells every day or every time I was downtown, and that it's just special,
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a treasure that we have, and I refer to it, as my Carillon in talking with other players, but
it is right now.
Well, kind of.
You got the keys.
Well, no, I call it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we don't.
I call it the people's instrument because it is. I don't remember who said it. I think it was. I can't remember who, but somebody years ago referred to it as simultaneously the most democratic and autocratic of all instruments because everyone hears it, but only one person gets to choose when it gets played. Yeah. Everybody has to listen to it. Which I think is kind of funny. But yeah, I refer to it as the people's instrument, and I just like kind of having that opportunity to like I said just a kind of a small way in oh, I'm getting tongue-tied. I enjoy the opportunity to kind of be in people's lives, just even for a snippet of their day, if they hear it for 10 seconds, walking from Baldwin to Mayo or something like that.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I hope I'm a worthy steward for the next person that comes after me.
Absolutely.
Can you go live on Twitter when you're up there sometime?
I went live. I did a live stream last night on Facebook.
We got it.
I will usually stream it from the Humanities Facebook page because I'm an admin for that. I work for Humanities. That's my department. So if I'm going to stream, I will usually go through that.
Okay.
I actually should probably email them and see. We've been putting it off for like 6 months now because everything always pops up. I think we're supposed to do a Facebook Live on like the Mayo Facebook channel on Friday, which happens to be my father's birthday and Mr. Rogers' birthday. So doing a Mr. Rogers and jazz tribute for both of them.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. My father loves jazz, and Mr. Rogers, she doesn't love Mr. Rogers. So I think we're supposed to still do that. I should probably double check.
Okay, we're gonna have to link all that.
Yeah,
I do. If I'm not streaming,
people have to tune in.
Yeah, right. I think I've only actually done one Twitter stream. I did an Aretha Franklin memorial concert right after she died. Wow. And I streamed that on Twitter because that was the first thing I thought to do. I don't know if I can get like a second iPhone or another iPad or something like that.
Yeah.
I could probably stream it, but I have to choose just one. We were actually in the process right now. I have a meeting about it on Thursday, actually. Getting a camera installed in the playing cabin to host those on the Mayo website and live stream those. They're talking about in the Chateau, the theater, putting in a permanent exhibit on the Carillon, which would be fantastic. And we would host the video stream there, but also publish it online. So
I like that idea.
I really like that idea.
Yeah, that's been in the works for a while. It's one of those we have. I think all the things we basically just have to kind of figure out when it's going to go in, how we're going to host it, and all that stuff. But
lots of committees.
Actually, only one. Believe it or not.
Wow,
that's amazing.
That's
right?
surprising.
Yeah, right. But yeah, there's a lot of support for it, and people are excited to do it. So it's going to happen. It's just a matter of logistics of when we can get it all done.
That is exciting.
I'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I said was that they have to angle it where you can't see my face. Because I have a habit of I swear really badly when I hit wrong notes, and so I said the microphone.
Now we really know what's going on.
Yeah, the microphone cannot be in the playing in the playing cabinet, and the camera has to be like not of this part of my face.
Oh my gosh!
I used to record myself on YouTube and post the videos there because my grandmother liked to watch. And
this is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah. And one time I hit a wrong note and I dropped like the F-bomb or something. I was like, oh. And my grandmother messaged me on Facebook and said, I wish you wouldn't say those things when I'm watching your videos. So I stopped doing that because I figured it was easier to stop recording than to stop swearing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have to watch myself if I have tour groups. I get so frustrated.
Yeah.
I practice so much and I hit like an F sharp instead of an F natural. It just makes me so mad.
Come on.
It's like instinctual.
You get paid to do this right. Get it right, darn it.
You know, it's funny actually. Getting paid to practice is a great incentive to actually practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
I learned that after I started. I was like,
and I feel like you'll feel even more guilty when you mess up during a live performance.
Oh my God! When I was playing last night, it was all like hymns and folk songs and stuff, just to kind of set a contemplative mood. And I played "America the Beautiful" as the second to last piece. Messed it up so bad, like noticeably awfully, because I wasn't paying much attention. I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
And luckily, the camera was outside, not inside with me, because I lit into it because I was just so angry. Of course, it's the one that people recognize that you mess up on the worst.
Yes, there's so much pressure.
Oh, yeah. So that was fun. It happens, but I just remind myself, well, I've heard better performers than me make mistakes too. It's fine, but it's not much of a consolation. I still get really angry.
That's funny.
This has been fun. The people of Rochester. So many stories.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic. I love reading your updates every time I see one.
What's the future hold for the people of Rochester?
More of this.
Great. That's exciting.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said,
thank you for giving us a little sneak peek, a little window into your... I don't think it's a little corner. I think it's a big deal. And I think if you ask the rest of the community, it's a pretty big deal. Yeah.
I don't know. I try and stay humble about it. It's just, it's my job. I enjoy doing it. I'm grateful that people appreciate it. But
yeah, we really do. We really do.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's good to feel appreciated.
Yeah.
If people want to interact, where would you push them? What websites? What Facebook page?
You can interact with the Humanities Facebook page on Twitter. It's Center for Humanities and Medicine, Mayo Clinic. If I don't know you, please don't add me on my personal Facebook because I don't do that. You'd be amazed how many people do. Bless their hearts. I'm just like, I have no idea. No. The fastest way to get in contact with me directly is actually probably Twitter, because I have Twitter for the Carillon. It's at Mayo Clinic Bells, and I tweet there all the time. Send in song requests, say hi, say you didn't like a piece and I'm never supposed to play it again. Do whatever. That's the easiest way to get me, because I have it on my phone and I can respond instantaneously.
Okay.
I'm generally pretty good about keeping up with that.
And if somebody ever wanted a tour, is that possible?
No, unfortunately, we don't offer tours for non-employees anymore, just because it's really difficult to get up there. It's very tight, just kind of sketchy. Well, not sketchy, but it was obviously, this is an employees-only area kind of thing.
It wasn't built for the...
Yeah, that's
wasn't built for a tour.
That's part of the reason we're getting live streaming set up, is because we used to offer tours and then admin just kind of decided it was too much of a liability. And I was like, to law school. I get that.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the reason we went the live streaming setup, so people can watch the concerts and see them being played.
So that's something people can look forward to in the future.
Yeah, that was kind of the primary reason for us doing this, was we still wanted to share not just the audio, because you can hear it if you step outside, but just the visuals of that, so people can feel connected to it, even though they can't be up in the tower with me.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so
I think that's going to make a big difference.
I'm really looking forward to it. There are a number of institutions across the world that that utilize live streaming for Carillon concerts, and they're always so popular. I really think it'll be a good thing.
That's exciting.
More pressure on me, because then my colleagues can listen to me, and then they'll know if I'm not up to snuff on a piece. But
I'm gonna be watching and laughing when I see your head and I'm like, oh, I know he just said a cuss word.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty obvious.
I had no idea that you messed up that. That's the great thing about it, because you practice.
We don't know.
I have no idea. I'm like, oh, but I think he just messed up there.
Yeah, I will say I can play a really hard Carillon piece much more easily than I can like a folk song, because, like you said, nobody's gonna know if you mess up. But if you screw up the Star Spangled Banner, people are gonna be like, oh.
Who is up there?
Yeah, what the heck is he doing?
And now we all know, if you hear extra honking downtown Rochester, that's what it's for.
I would love to do that. I wish there was, before Gonda was built, there was a parking garage there, and they actually, we have pictures for the dedication, or the dedication of the expanded Carillon in 77? Yeah. Or 78, excuse me. No, it was 77. They brought all these dignitaries and everything in their fancy suits and cocktail dresses and everything, and they sat them in folding chairs on the top floor of the parking garage, because that was the best place to listen to
I
Carillon.
love that story.
So yeah, if there was still a
funny.
parking garage there, you could honk at me. I'd probably hear it. But I think that's hilarious. The first time I ever heard that, I said, "Oh, I have to play there one day just to experience that." For myself.
That would be a great experience.
Yeah.
Carry like an air horn up there with you, you can honk back at him.
That would be so fun. No, it'll just be Bucky on first.
Yeah.
I'll keep an ear out.
Well, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It has been great, and I look forward to following you more on social media.
Oh yeah, thanks.
See you next time.